Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanMuscle.com. Today we're taking a look at, listening to, and installing the Corsa Extreme Catback exhaust with polish tips, available for the 2018 Mustang GT with the active exhaust system. Now, if you're the owner of that 18 S550 with the active exhaust, you might be looking to beef up your sound, volume, horsepower, and torque with the loudest catback available in the category. That's right, it's not one of the loudest, it's not in the middle, it is the absolute loudest you can go currently on the site with the Corsa Extreme. Now this one, full 5 out of 5 on our loudness meter, as you just heard from those sound clips, going from quiet to normal to sport to track. It each progressively gets more and more aggressive, giving you more volume, a lot of rasp, just a little bit of drone, but a ton of aggression. This thing just sounds like an absolute tank pulling through. Now in quiet mode, as you heard at idle, it sounds pretty mellow. It's very tamed. It's good for the guys out there looking to keep it quiet in the morning. Maybe on a cold start, you don't want to wake your neighbors. Quiet mode is still pretty tameable with the Corsa Extreme. As you switch that to normal mode, it gets extremely deep, extremely aggressive. It's got a really good rumble at idle, and it just wakes up when you open up that throttle. As you go from sport to track, of course, you're then going into the all-out beast mode. I mean, I'm talking full out volume, turn it all the way up, completely unrestricted. There is nothing blocking that airflow. Since there is an X pipe at the back end by your headers, it also has a resonator delete, which will help with that volume all through each of the modes. Now, of course, as you would expect with a Corsa system, you're getting 304 stainless steel from head to toe, which means it is the top quality material, the best you can get out there. So any of you guys located in wintry weather areas like us here on the East Coast, you might see a lot of road salt, and this will definitely hold up through those weather elements. Some of the other systems out there are 409 stainless, some are aluminized, which are definitely a little bit more weaker materials. So if you're looking to spend a little bit more money to get that premium quality, Corsa has your back. This thing is going to bump up some horsepower and torque thanks to the lack of kinks, which we'll take a closer look at sitting next to our factory catback. If you're looking to pick this system up for your own S550, again, only fitting the 2018 and newer Mustangs with the active exhaust system, you can do so for just about $2,000. Now, as the generations of Mustangs have progressed, they have gotten a little bit more expensive, and the active exhaust will add to that since you are retaining that system with your Mustang. Now, if you're looking to get that premium quality, you want the best of the best with Corsa, $2,000 is the price to pay, and it is well worth it, as you heard from our sound clips. Now, the installation here gets 1 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. As you see, we're working on a lift, which makes life a little bit easier. If you're working on the ground, it might make things a little more uncomfortable, but it's still doable with simple hand tools. Have a ratchet and simple socket on deck. A cordless impact makes it a lot easier as well. I used a pole jack, but jack stands for support definitely go a long way. Having a helping hand on deck when you're pulling the entire system out also helps a ton. I had my buddy Stan help me out, which you'll see on the install in just a little bit. You get a range of sound from quiet mode to track, so there's pretty much a good sound with the Extreme here for every preference you might have. Now, without further ado, guys, I want to show you how this gets installed, so let's get to it. Tools used for this install will be a cordless impact or a ratchet, extension, flathead screwdriver, 10mm short socket, 11mm socket, 11mm deep socket, 13mm short socket and deep socket, and a 15mm deep socket. Now, the first couple of steps we want to tackle for the uninstall of our factory active exhaust catback on our 2018 GT is to disconnect the wiring harness on the actuator right above our rear end tailpipe tips. Once those are disconnected on both sides, there's one for each side, we'll be pulling out the Christmas tree clip that's connecting it to the inside frame. Now, that's going to drop all of our wiring harness down here on both sides, and then we'll be able to move on. So first things first, let's disconnect that harness. All right, to remove this clip here on the top of your actuator, what you're going to do is push back the white pin on the top of it. You might need a flathead screwdriver to go ahead and push that out. Once that's out, the whole clip you can just push straight back once it's out. All right, the next step here on the driver's side is to go right in between the tailpipe tip and your rear valance and to pull that Christmas tree clip out, holding your harness to the frame. That way, that whole clip will just hang down. All right, now we're gonna do the same thing for our passenger side. Release that white clip, pull back on the harness. All right, now we're gonna do the same thing for that Christmas tree clip. Now we're back here at these band clamps and we're gonna use our flathead screwdriver to pry up on the retainer pin just to get it so that we can slide it off later on. Once we have both of those pried up with our flathead, we're gonna use a 15mm deep socket to loosen up these nuts. Then we'll work our way back. So the next step we're going to do here is take our cordless impact. You can also use a regular hand ratchet. If you've got air tools, that works as well. With my cordless impact, I've got an extension and a short 13mm socket. I'm going to work right here over the sway bar in the rear to remove the top bolt on our hanger bracket right under our diff on our subframe. So once we have these two removed, we'll be able to shuffle the exhaust backward a little bit and rotate these hanger brackets downward so they're not coming in contact with the subframe. All right, so once you have those bolts out, just push up on the exhaust so that way you can unclip the hanger from the subframe and rotate those down and out of the way. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide our clamps backward here toward our resonator to disconnect the pipes on our catback. Once these are disconnected and free from these clamps, we'll be able to slide our exhaust forward to disconnect from the hangers by our tailpipes. Now with those clamps and pipes disconnected by the resonator, this whole thing is going to drop down. With the help of a friend, you can definitely disconnect this with 2 people. If you're working by yourself, a pole jack or a jack stand will hold this up while you work on the tailpipe end. I got my friend Stan here with me today, so I'm going to have him help me get this out. All right, so we got our factory exhaust off of our 2018 Mustang on the floor here, sitting next to our Corsa Extreme with polished tips. I'll talk about those tips in just a second, but I want to start back here. Now, as you can see, we swapped over a couple of things on the front end of our exhaust here, including the deletion of our factory resonator. That's not going to be transferred over here. Corsa does not have one in their kit. That's going to help amplify that sound and remove some of that airflow restriction. We're also swapping from that H-style pipe to an X pipe. That is also going to remove some of the restriction, and thanks to the mandrel bends, you're going to increase your horsepower and torque numbers when adding the Corsa Extreme system with this X pipe. It's also going to give you a lot more rasp and a lot more volume, which, as you heard from our sound clips, is about as loud as it can possibly get. With the active exhaust on your 2018 GT, you're swapping from just a factory exhaust on the previous models to something that has quiet mode, sport mode, and track mode, and factoring in the Corsa Extreme, which is one of the loudest of the loud. The full 5 out of 5 on our loudness meter, as we talked about earlier. Now moving backward from that toward the rear end, you're noticing a pretty decent increase in size for your mufflers. That's gonna help you increase your volume. The Extreme mufflers, again, are some of the loudest options out there. And the tips coming out the rear end are a huge upgrade in my opinion. They're one of the best looking tips in the category. They're 4-inch slash cut chrome tips from Corsa with that name embezzled right on the top of the material. Now this whole thing, top to bottom, is gonna have a 3-inch mandrel bend tubing. Again, those mandrel bends eliminate any kinks or pressure points in the piping, giving you that free-flowing air. Now that's gonna give you a nice bump in power and a really good bump in sound, as we just heard. Now there's a couple of things we have to transfer over from our factory one to our new Corsa Extreme before we can get this up on our 2018, including the actuator motors by the tips. We'll transfer those over to the spots you see here. We're also gonna transfer over the bracket hangers that we removed from our subframe, and then we'll be able to pop that up with our new clamps. So we're gonna transfer over our factory actuators from our tips over to our Corsa Extreme. This is gonna help with that active exhaust transfer mode. So what we're gonna do is use our 10mm socket. I've got my cordless impact, remove these 3 nuts, holding on at the factory actuator. Now, you want to make sure once you're removing these that you are keeping pressure on it, because there is a pressurized spring in there. Now, this isn't going to shoot off, but it is going to pop out a little bit aggressively, so keep your pressure on there while you're removing your 3 bolts. That way it doesn't pop off. Now, keep in mind, these are very much side specific. So when you take off your driver's side actuator from your factory exhaust, you want to make sure you're putting it on the driver's side of your Corsa Extreme, and the same thing for your passenger. We're also using new hardware that Corsa gives us in the package here, so you can discard the factory hardware or save it for later if you ever decide to go back to your factory catback. Inside our Corsa tip here, you want to make sure you're putting your actuator in correctly. Inside the tip here, you'll see that this is where the spring will actually seat, and this rotates a little bit, actually opening and closing that valve. So you want to make sure that that spring is seating in those indentations on the seat there. That way that valve will open and close properly. So let's get this installed. So when we start to put this in place, you can see it seating properly inside the actuator spot. I'm trying to rotate it, there we go. Now you'll notice that it doesn't exactly line up properly, so you will have to put tension on the spring and rotate it yourself. So you can feed one of the screws in there, tighten it down all the way by hand. That way it'll keep everything in place and keep tension on that spring. All right, now we're gonna transfer over those hanger brackets right behind our mufflers. You want to make sure you're rotating them down. All right, last step here is just to remove our factory clamps right behind our resonator. The first step of our install is to connect our Corsa Extreme adapters to our factory headers using our factory clamp. Now, if you remember, we used a flathead screwdriver to pry off this retaining clip. Now that that's back off, we're gonna slide this on and reconnect that to the button in place, and then we can push that tab back down. Now with that in place, we use our adapter, slide that onto our clamp, and tighten them down on both sides. That way we can connect it to our Corsa Extreme X-Pipe. All right, with our 15mm deep socket, we can tighten down these clamps. Now, we don't want to tighten them down too much, just get them nice and snug so they're in place, but still have room for adjustment. Next up, we're gonna put our X-Pipe in place from Corsa. Now, as you can see, there's a Corsa plate connecting the end here. That's gonna be facing downward. So once this is installed, you wanna be able to read that Corsa name on that plate there. Now on the other end, going into those adapters, you wanna make sure you have clamps set in place with the bolt head turned down so you can access it from the bottom of the vehicle. All right, with the X-Pipe in place here, we've got our clamps rotated properly so that we can access those bolt heads easily. I'm gonna tighten these down with the 15mm socket. Then I'm gonna get a pole jack, because we're working on a lift, to lift this end of it up. Now, as you can see, it sags down quite a bit with no support. We're gonna support that end so we can easily work back to our tips. All right, we're gonna work on our driver's side muffler pipe now. That this is gonna slide in over the X pipe and connect there. It's also gonna slide into the hanger by where our tailpipes would be. And then we'll be able to reconnect the hanger bracket on our subframe. All right, we can rotate our hanger bracket upward toward our subframe, lift up the whole exhaust system now, and clip that into place. Now we're gonna use our factory bolt here to tighten it back down. All right, we'll come back and tighten this down in just a bit. Same thing here for the passenger side. All right, now we can tighten down the clamps to our X pipe and tighten down these hanger bracket bolts. All right, so we're gonna use our 15mm deep socket to tighten down the clamps, holding on those muffler pipes to our X pipe. And when you're connecting these clamps and tightening them down, number one, make sure you're not over tightening them because we do need room for adjustment, like I said earlier. So we're just gonna get them a little snug for now. Number two, you wanna make sure you're rotating these so that they're facing sideways. You still want access to the bolt head, but here, they're just hanging down too low. So make sure you rotate them sideways so it's pretty smooth on the bottom and the bolt head is upward a little bit. All right, we got our extension back with a 13mm socket working over our sway bar to tighten down our hanger bracket bolts to the subframe. All right, the last couple of steps here are just to install our 4-inch chrome tips onto our muffler. Now, I'm gonna start with the one that actually has the actuator on it, just because we'll need a little bit more room to work on the V-band clamp instead of just the plain old clamp. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pinch this together, loosen up that nut and remove that completely. That'll loosen up that clamp as far as it can go and give us a lot of room to work with. I'm gonna install this over the outlet on the muffler. Then I'm gonna take our tip with the actuator on it and install it together, pinch it, and thread that nut right back on. That'll give us the maximum amount of room here. If you were to install the other tip, you might not have a whole lot of room to work with here, so this will make life just a little bit easier. All right, now we can grab our 11mm socket and tighten that clamp down. All right, now we can do the same thing here for our driver's side. We're gonna put our V-band clamp over the muffler without the nut on it. That way we can loosen it up as much as we need to. We can put our tip in place, rotate it how we need it to be rotated, and tighten it down. All right, now we can install the opposite tip, the one that does not have the actuator on it. This one's just a regular old clamp. So we're gonna slide that over the end of the tip, put it in place, and tighten those down. You wanna make sure that when you're putting it over the outlet on your muffler, that your tips have an even length on them. All right, now we're gonna do the same thing here for our passenger side. We've got our clamp on the end of the tip. Slide that over top. Two last things we have to do here. We're going to reconnect our harnesses to the actuators on both sides. Then we're going to work our way from the tips all the way back to the headers and tighten down all the clamps, aligning the tips properly in the rear valance. We want to make sure everything is aligned before we tighten everything down to spec. So the first thing we're going to do, reconnect these harnesses, then we'll tighten them down. Once that's connected, connect your Christmas tree clip to the frame. Do the same thing on the other side. That's going to wrap up my review and install for the Corsa Extreme Catback exhaust with polished tips for the 18 Mustang GT with the active exhaust. Now, if you're looking to keep your active exhaust but get the loudest possible catback on the market with the highest quality system available and you're willing to pay that price for it, the Corsa Extreme is the way to go. The 4-inch polished tips here look absolutely amazing at the rear end of the new S550 here, and the sound here is just pretty much unbeatable. Now, if you're looking to get this in the black tip version, that is also available for around the same price here if you're looking for that stealthier exit out the rear end. Either way, you can pick up your Corsa Extreme right here at AmericanMuscle.com.